Welcome back, dear students and friends. We were doing a revision of chapter number 1, Reproduction in Organism. In the previous session of revision, we have finished with lifespan, reproduction, asexual reproduction in plants and animals, and vegetative propagation. Today we have to start the other part of a revision, and that is a sexual mode of reproduction in a revision. As like I have told yesterday that we will do a revision in very brief and we will try to cover most of the topics. If you have any doubt regarding to it, you can ask anytime. It's sexual reproduction. So what are the characteristics of sexual reproduction? In a sexual reproduction, as you know that there are involvement of two parents. Usually they are of opposite sex. Here the process occurs with formation of gametes. Formation of gamete is necessary. Okay, so this is a characteristic of sexual reproduction. The third characteristic in the sexual reproduction, it involves a fusion of gametes. So the offspring which is produced are not identical, but it is a similar looking copies are produced. Okay, the offspring are similar looking. Here it occurs into a higher variety of organism or higher order of organism usually. These are the characteristics we have already discussed regarding to a sexual mode of reproduction. Now if you compare this sexual reproduction comparable with asexual reproduction, the sexual reproduction is a slow process. It is not as fast as asexual reproduction. It is complex process and it is elaborative process. So these are the characteristics of sexual mode of reproduction. Many living organisms, they reproduce sexually, like fungi, plants, animals, they reproduce sexually. And if you look at them, what we have learned in the 11th science, we have learned its internal anatomy, we have learned their morphology, we have learned their physiology. If you see the anatomy, physiology and morphology of the different living organism who reproduces sexually, they have a different organs for sexual reproduction. But yes, when it comes to events and the processes of sexual reproduction in all these organisms, then the basic events remain the same. Okay, whatever the organ for sexual reproduction they might have, but the basic events remains the same. Okay, so what every living organism who reproduces sexually, they have to achieve a certain period of growth and maturation before they become capable of reproduction. Okay, and this phase is called as juvenile phase. Ultimately, I want to say that those animals which reproduces sexually, they have three phases in their life. The first phase is called as juvenile phase. Second phase is called as reproductive phase. And the third phase is called as senescence phase. Okay, so these are the basic three phases in the life of sexually reproducing organism: juvenile phase, reproductive phase, and the senescence phase. What is a juvenile phase? A juvenile phase is a time period in which they achieve a growth and maturation. Okay, this is called as a juvenile phase. Here in this phase, they are not capable of producing sexually. Okay, or they cannot reproduce sexually. This is called as a juvenile phase. Same phase, the juvenile phase in plant can also be called as vegetative phase. What's up? It's in plant. With respect to a plant, it is called as a vegetative phase. Once the juvenile phase is finished, then the next phase starts. That is called as a reproductive phase. During the juvenile phase, they achieve a certain growth and they achieve a certain processes in which they try to be a mature. Okay, and then they acquire a capacity to reproduce. When they acquire a capacity to reproduce, they enter in the next phase, and this is called as reproductive phase. Means once the juvenile phase finishes, the next phase starts. It's called as a reproductive phase. In a reproductive phase, we can see the certain changes in the animal structure and internal morphology as well as the behavior. Okay, once they enter into a reproductive phase, there are certain morphological changes can also be observed. Like you say that in case of a plant, a flower comes to arise. This is a kind of a change that indicates that now the plant is capable of reproducing sexually. Like take an example of human being. When human being acquire a stage called as they enter into a reproductive phase, there are certain morphological changes occurs. Like in male, there is a development of a beard and mustache, or broad shoulder, or the voice gets changed. Like in a female, there is a development of a mammary gland or pelvic region, or there is a change in a voice, etc. The changes are going to be observed when it enters into a reproductive phase. So let's discuss in both cases, plants as well as an animal. You know that how you come to know that the plant has entered into a reproductive phase. The flower starts to come. But in different plant, the flower occurs at different time interval. In some plants, it occurs always. In some plant, the flower occurs seasonally. In some plants, the flower occurs, you can say that rarely, or after a very long time period, the flower may going to arises. So the time period at which the flower or they enters into a reproductive phase, that is going to be varied. We have a three variety of a plant: annual plant, biennial plant, perennial plant. If it is an annual and biennial plant, there is a clear-cut division of these three phases: juvenile phase, reproductive phase, and senescence phase. But in case of perennial plant, a clear-cut demarcation or the division between these phases cannot be observed. Okay, like there we have a very lots of example which shows a rare kind of a flowering. Okay, like take example of bamboo species. Remember, this bamboo species, it flowers once in a lifetime. It flowers only one time in a life. Okay, usually it is after 50 to 100 years of that planting, the flower will come. After flowers, they generate lots of fruits and they will die. Okay, so that means in their life they generate flower once only. Okay, I will also tell you another example in which a rare types of flowering occurs, and this is called as Strobilenthus kunthiana. Kunthiana. What we also call it as Nilkuranji. This is a plant which flowers every 12 years. And its flowers are blue in color. Usually we can find this kind of a plant into the South India. The states of South India like Kerala, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, they have hilly regions where this plant can be found. It has attracted a lot of visitors because it converts that blue, hilly area of these three states into a blue color when it flowers. This is Strobilenthus kunthiana, which flowers every 12 years. 12 years. Okay, so this is a rare kind of a flowering which is going to be noted. Okay, so ultimate point is that some plants are such that which produces the flower seasonally, what we call it as seasonal breeders. Some plants are such that they produces the flowers continuously, what we call them as continuous breeders. And some plants are such that which are very rare, they produces a flowering in a rare manner. Like for example, bamboo and the Strobilenthus kunthiana. Okay, that is regarding to plants, the reproductive phase of a plant. Now we discuss the reproductive phase of animals. Same like a plant, in animal also you know that there are certain changes that is observed during the reproductive phases. Okay, in case of an animal, take example of a bird. You might have seen the birds, but they involve in a reproduction by laying down eggs. These eggs, are they produced in every season? No, they are produced in a specific season only. Usually it's in a summer. Birds give eggs during the summer. So birds reproduces during the summer. It's not like that they reproduces throughout the year. Okay, so such type of animals are called as seasonal breeders. But there are also some animals, like including human beings, who are continuous breeders, means they can reproduce in any season or any time. This is called as a continuous breeders. So like plant, the animals who reproduce sexually, they can also be two types: continuous breeders, and the second one is called as seasonal breeders. Okay, I hope you know the difference between the continuous breeders and the seasonal breeders. Okay, seasonal breeders, they breed only during the specific season, and the continuous breeder, they breed during the throughout the year. This is called as continuous breeders. But if you take examples of placental animal, specifically placental mammals, the females of placental mammals, they show a specific changes in the ovaries, in the accessory ducts and the hormones during the reproductive phase. I again repeat, the female of placental mammal show a changes in the ovary, accessory duct and the hormone in the reproductive phase. If it is a non-primate, if this female is non-primate, female placental mammal, the changes which are observed in the female non-primate of placental mammal, then this kind of a changes, it's called as estrous cycle. And remember, these changes are cyclical changes. And the cyclical changes which occurs into a primates, this is called as menstrual cycle. Okay, so ultimate thing is the cyclical changes which are reported into a non-primate female of placental mammal. This is called as estrous cycle. And the cyclical changes in the ovaries, accessory duct and hormones that is observed in primates of female placental mammal, that is called as menstrual cycle. Which are the examples of a non-primates? The examples of non-primates are cow, sheep, tiger, deer. These are the examples of a non-primate. Which are the examples of a primates? The example of primates are ape, monkey, human being. Right? So in non-primate you can observe estrous cycle, and in primate you can observe a menstrual cycle. Okay, so that is about a reproductive phase. Now once the reproductive phase over, then the next phase starts, and this phase is called as senescence phase. What is the another name of senescence phase? The senescence phase can also be called as aging phase. What it can be called as? It can also be called as aging phase. Now, once the reproductive phase overs, then the next phase starts, what we call as senescence phase. In that, now the animal usually lose its capacity to reproduce. They were sexually capable to reproduce, but now they lose their capacity to reproduce. This is called as senescence or aging. Okay, or you can say older age, which is going to be characterized by slowing the metabolism, or certain changes are going to be appear, like appearance of wrinkles, or metabolism gets slowed, movement gets slowed, stamina or physical capability gets reduced, etc. changes can be observed. Okay, so this is called as senescence phase. So clear students, every sexually reproducing animal or plant, they have a 3 phases in their life: juvenile phase, reproductive phase and senescence phase. Okay, now as you know that all sexually reproducing organisms have 3 phases in their life, though they have a different organs for sexual reproduction, but the basic events remain the same. And you know the events, which are the events they are going to be reported in the animal who reproduces sexually. There are basic 3 types of event: pre-fertilization, second one is fertilization, third one is called as post-fertilization. These are the basic events, whatever the type of living organism it may be, but the basic events remain the same in any living organism who reproduces sexually. And these are the basic 3 events of sexual reproduction: pre-fertilization, fertilization and post-fertilization. The name itself suggests the events which occur before a fertilization, it's called as pre-fertilization. Fertilization, that means a fusion of gametes, this is called as fertilization. And post-fertilization means the events which occurs after fertilization, it's called as post-fertilization. Now which are the pre-fertilization, the events which occurs before the fertilization? There are 2 events. First is gametogenesis, and the second one is gamete transfer. Second is fertilization, that's fusion, and the post-fertilization, that includes zygote formation, and the second one is embryogenesis. Okay. So these are the basic events. Now let's discuss each one. Starting with the first, pre-fertilization. The events before fertilization is called as pre-fertilization. And what is included under it? Two events, gametogenesis and gamete transfer. So what is a gametogenesis? You know the meaning of genesis. Genesis means formation. Formation of what? Gamete. Genesis means formation. Formation of gamete. It is called as gametogenesis process. You know that there are two types of a gamete. One is a male gamete and the second one is female gamete. Okay, there are two types of a gamete, male and the female gamete. Usually these two gametes are morphologically different, means in appearance they look different. Okay, the male gamete is usually small, highly active and motile. What we also call it as antherozoid, or it can also be called as sperm. Okay, this is a male gamete. Okay, this is smaller one. Whereas the female gamete, it is comparatively larger. Compared to a male gamete, it's a larger. It is non-motile. It can also be called as egg, or it can also be called as ovum. These are the other names of it. It can be called as egg or ovum. Means it wants to say that the male gamete and female gamete, they look different in their appearances or in morphology. But there are few cases in which the male gamete and female gamete are so similar in appearance that it is difficult to identify the difference between the male and female gamete. Like it is observed in the case of algae. In algae, both the gametes are so similar, it look like similar gametes. So this is called as, this type of animals are called as homogametes. Okay, so algae is an example in which both the kind of gametes are similar. What we call it as homogametes. But in all other, most of the living organisms, the male and female gametes are of different type. Okay, so this is called as male and female gamete. Now before we go ahead, you should know the sexuality in plants and the animal. So I hope you know the meaning of sexuality in case of, let's start with a plant. Plants can be of two types. First is called as unisexual and the second one is called as bisexual. What is called as a bisexual? Bisexual plant, that means a plant which possesses the flower, and this flower, okay, has both sex organ, a male and female reproductive sex organ. This is called as bisexual. And if it is a unisexual, it has either of the reproductive organ. Either it contains stamen, or it contains a carpel. If it contains a stamen, then the flower is called as staminate flower. If it contains pistil, then it is called as pistillate flower. In common term, you can say that stamen containing flower is called as staminate, or simple term it's called as male flower. Pistil containing flower is called as pistillate flower, or it can be called as female flower. Okay, so in unisexual plant, the flowers are different, male and female flower are different, and in bisexual, both the organs are present in the same flower. Now in unisexual, there are two varieties of plant. One is called as monoecious, second one is called as dioecious. Monoecious means flowers are, it's a unisexual flower, means flower are different, male flower is different and the female flower is different. But if male flower and female flower, they are present in the same plant, then it is called as monoecious. And if the male and female flower are present on a different plant, then it is called as dioecious. The example of monoecious plants are, which are the examples of monoecious plant? It is cucurbita, coconut. These are the example of monoecious plant. And which are the dioecious plant? The example are papaya, date palm. These are the example of dioecious. Clear? This is a sexuality in plant. Bisexual, unisexual. Unisexual further divides into monoecious and dioecious. Okay. Now take an example of sexuality in animals. We have discussed in plants. Now we start with animals. The bisexual animal means the animal which possesses both sex organ of male and female in the same individual. This is called as bisexual animal. And the bisexual animal can also be called as hermaphrodite. What it is called as hermaphrodite. Okay. Next, which are the examples of bisexual animal? You have to remember the example. The examples are earthworm, sponges, tapeworm, leeches. Okay, these are the examples of bisexual. Now, which are the examples of unisexual? The all other we are unisexual, in which male and female reproductive organs are present in two different individuals. So these are called as unisexual. Okay, like frog is a unisexual. Okay, so these are the sexualities in plants and the animals. Now we are discussing the gametogenesis, means the process of formation of gametes. Gametes can be of two types, male and female gamete. Male gamete is called as antherozoid or sperm, and the female gamete is called as egg and ovum. How they are produced? Remember one thing, gametes are haploid or always haploid in nature. Haploid means it contains n number of chromosomes. Gametes are always haploid or they contain n number of chromosomes. So suppose assume that these are the gametes which are produced. Male gamete or female gamete. But it may be produced from diploid organism or it may be produced from haploid organism. This is a diploid and this is a haploid. So if the diploid organism produces the gametes, these are the gametes. You know that gametes are always haploid in nature. If the diploid organism produces the gametes, then they produces by a process called as meiosis. By which process they reproduces? Meiosis. If the haploid organism produces the gametes, then they reproduces by a process called as mitosis. Clear? Ultimate point is the diploid gamete produces haploid gamete by process called as meiosis. Haploid organism, it produces the haploid gamete by process called as mitosis. So the organism might be diploid and haploid, but the gametes are always haploid. Okay, these are also gametes. Okay, gametes are always haploid in nature. That's all about a process called as gametogenesis, a process of formation of a gamete. You know that usually what happens? Male gamete is a motile and the female gamete is a non-motile. Ultimately, in sexual reproduction, the second process is fertilization, means a fusion of male and female gamete. To fuse this male and female gamete, both has to be brought together. Both has to be brought together. Okay, and to brought together, they have to perform one process, and this process is called as gamete transfer process. What it is called? Gamete transfer process. Clear, students? So how the gamete transfer occurs, and gamete transfer is necessary. Gamete transfer is necessary for a fusion or the fertilization process. But to transfer this gamete, they require a certain kind of a medium. Usually, most of the time, the water is serving as a medium for transfer of these gametes. Okay? Different living organisms utilize the water as a medium to transfer a gametes. Like for an example, algae, bryophytes. These are the living organisms who use the water as a medium to transfer the gametes. Okay? Because usually the male gamete is a motile and the female gamete is a non-motile. In angiosperm, the flowering plant, both the gametes are non-motile. In case of algae, okay, and fungi, both the gametes are motile. In case of red algae, okay, both the gametes are non-motile in nature. Okay, so you just have to remember in which circumstances which gametes are motile and which gametes are non-motile in nature. So some utilizes the water to transfer for gamete. Okay. Now the plants, specifically of flowering plants. In these flowering plants or the angiosperm, both the gametes are non-motile. Okay, means the male gamete which is present in a pollen grain and the female gamete that is present into an embryo cell, they both are non-motile. So in these circumstances, they need a certain agent to transfer a male gamete to a female gamete. And here, the transfer process in angiosperm, the transfer of gametes in angiosperm or transfer of anther to a stigma, pollen grain to a stigma of a flower. This process is called as pollination, but that can be achieved by certain agents, what we call it as pollination agents. Wind, water, animals, insect, they can act as a pollination agents, okay, which helps in a transfer of gametes. Okay. Next, in case of a unisexual animal, male gametes are produced in male individual, the female gametes are produced in female individual. Female individual, usually what happens, they have a gametes which are non-motile in nature, and in male gametes, the male gametes are motile in nature. But they have to develop a certain mechanism, what we call it as sexual way, by which the gametes are going to be transferred to a female gamete. Okay, so they develop a certain mechanism by which a gametes are going to be transferred, and that may vary from animal to another animal. Okay, now here you know that whatever the kind of gametes, when they are going to be transferred, there is a chance that lots of gametes may going to be destroyed, may going to be damaged, and only a few gametes or very few gametes are able to reach to a female gamete. And many gametes are going to be lost, and to compensate this loss, the male gametes are usually produced in larger numbers. So that's why you see in plant, the male gametes are produced in very large numbers. Okay, because many gets lost, only few are able to reach to a female gamete, whereas the female gamete usually one or two. Okay, like also take example of a human being. In human being, the sperms are produced in billions. Okay, but the female gamete, that is an egg or ovum, that is produced once in a month. That means only a one egg or ovum is produced in a month. Okay, because while transferring, many gametes are going to be lost, and to compensate this loss, the male gametes are produced in higher number. Okay, so that's about a gamete transfer process. Okay, students. Now the next process starts. Once the gamete is produced, gamete is transferred. By transferring, we are bringing two gametes or two different type of gamete together. Once they are nearer to each other, the next process starts, and this process is called as fertilization. Fertilization. What is a fertilization? Fertilization is called as fusion of male and female gamete. Fusion of male and female gamete is called as fertilization. It can also be called as syngamy. Okay, the fusion of male and female gamete or syngamy is called as fertilization. Okay. Now, the fertilization where it occurs, based on that, there are two types of fertilization based on the location where it occurs. External fertilization, and the second one is called as internal fertilization. Okay, external and internal fertilization. If the fertilization occurs outside a body, then it is called as outside a body. So this is called as external fertilization, which is usually reported into an aquatic organisms. Like for example, you can say that it is reported into an algae, it is reported into a fishes, or you can say that it is also reported into amphibians. Okay, so usually those animals who are living in a water, aquatic animals, in that cases the external fertilization is observed, where the fertilization occurs outside the body. In internal fertilization, the fertilization occurs inside the body. Okay, so if fertilization occurs inside the body, then it is called as internal fertilization. Like in the case of ourselves, fertilization occurs inside our body. Okay, or you can say that in case of flower, the flower fertilization occurs within a plant. So this is called as internal type of a fertilization. Which is more safer? The internal fertilization is more safer comparable to an external fertilization, because in external fertilization the fertilized product, what we call it as zygote, the zygote is more vulnerable to predators. It's going to be eaten by someone, or it's going to be damaged by someone, and so that's why the chances of damage is very high, or it can be damaged by the certain environmental conditions like the temperature, humidity, pH, etc. Okay, it might going to be damaged, so the chances of damage is very high in external fertilization, whereas the chances of damage is very less in case of internal fertilization. Okay students, so that's about external and internal fertilization. Now the next process is post fertilization. Now the name says that they are the events after fertilization. They are called as post-fertilization. In a fertilization, a fusion of gametes occur, male and female gamete, and that leads to a production of a first. That called as zygote. This zygote, it's a diploid nature. Okay, it is a diploid nature. There is a formation of a zygote. This is the first step in the post-fertilization. The zygote which is going to be developed, from this zygote the further development occurs, and the further development from the zygote, it depends on the certain factors, like it depends on the life cycle of a living organism, or it also depends on the environment to which they are going to be exposed. Based on that further development of a zygote is different from living organism to a living organism. I say few examples, like in case of a fungi. Once there is a formation of a zygote, a 2N zygote is going to be developed. This zygote is covered by layers. These layers are protecting this zygote from desiccation and the damage from the environment. Then they undergo rest before the germination occurs. Okay, so first the zygote is formed, then to protect it the layers are going to be formed, which these layers are protecting this zygote from the damages and desiccations, and then they undergo rest. After rest, they germinate. This is what happens in case of fungi. Like I will also tell you the examples in the organism who reproduces by haplontic way of life cycle, because it also depends on the life cycle. Okay, you know that there are three types of life cycle in plants: haplontic, diplontic, and haplodiplontic. What you have learned in the 11th science. But see the example of haplontic. The other one you already know it. Haplontic means of a life cycle. In haplontic means of life cycle, once the zygote is formed, this is a 2N zygote is going to be formed. This zygote, it divides by meiosis, and it forms 4 haploid spores. From these 4 haploid spores, the new individual is going to be produced. Okay, so this is called as haplontic. Ultimate point is that once the zygote is developed, the further development, it depends on the life cycle of a plant as well as the environment to which it's exposed. This is an example of environment, and this is an example of life cycle. Okay, so this is called as zygote formation. Every living organism who reproduces sexually, they start their life from a single cell, and this single cell is called as zygote. Even human being, a too complex living organism, still we also start our life from a single cell because we reproduce sexually, and this single cell is called as zygote. From single cell, a complex human being is going to be developed. Okay, so zygote is a, you can say a kind of a link between fusion of gametes and the post-fertilization, the living organism which is going to be produced. Okay, so this is called as zygote formation process, a type of post-fertilization events. After the zygote is formed, the next process is start, and what we call it as embryogenesis. So what is embryogenesis? Genesis means formation. Formation of what? Embryo. Okay, the formation of embryo from a zygote. This process is called as embryogenesis process. Now, where this embryo is going to be formed, based on that, there are two types of animals. First is called as oviparous animal, and the second one is called as viviparous animal. How many types? Two types, oviparous, and the second one is called as viviparous. In oviparous animal, the embryo is formed inside, the embryo is formed outside the body. They are called as oviparous animal. In viviparous animal, the embryo is formed inside the body. Okay. In oviparous, the formation of embryo occurs outside the body. Okay. Or in simple term, you can say that they give eggs, either fertilized egg or the unfertilized egg, and the formation of embryo occurs in the egg outside the body. Okay, they lay down eggs. Like for example, birds, reptiles, they lay down eggs. They are the oviparous animal where the embryo formation occurs or embryo development occurs outside the body. Viviparous animals are those animals in which embryo formation occurs inside the body. Means the development of embryo occurs inside the body, and they deliver young one. Means in this cases the delivery occurs. Okay, the delivery of young one takes place after the certain stage of a growth. Okay, so the oviparous animals, they give eggs, and viviparous animal, they give birth to a young one. This is the difference between the oviparous and viviparous based on where the embryo development takes place. Okay, now in oviparous animal, now you know that the embryo formation or embryo development occurs outside the body. They lay down eggs, and these eggs are surrounded by a calcium layer. So they are surrounded by cancerous layer. Okay, this cancerous layer usually protect the embryo which is developing inside the egg. Whereas here in viviparous animal, the development of embryo occurs inside the body. Okay, so here in viviparous animal, the protection is too higher because it is present in the female parent body. Okay, whereas in oviparous animals, it might going to be damaged by its predators, and the enemies might going to damage it. Okay, so the chances of survival and to reach adulthood is very high in case of viviparous animal comparable to an oviparous animal. Clear? Oviparous animals, they have a cancerous cells which might going to be damaged by predators and their enemies. Viviparous animals, they are protected within a female parent body, so they have a higher chances of growth and care. Okay, so that's why their survival chances are very high. This is what happens embryo formation in animals, and there are different types. Similarly, the embryo formation also occurs in a plant. Okay, so when there is a development of a zygote in a plant, flowering plant, the other parts of a flower gets fall off. Like for an example, sepal, petal, stamen, they get fall off after fertilization in case of a flowering plant, and only one organ remains or attached, and that is carpel or pistil. Within that, when the ovary gets fertilized, it converts to a fruit, and ovule gets fertilized, that converts into a seed, and the zygote which is going to be formed, it converts into an embryo. Clear? In flowering plant, when the fertilization occurs, in a post-fertilization events, the zygote converts to an embryo, ovule converts into a seed, ovary converts to a fruit. In a fruit, there is a development of hard wall surrounding to it. There is a formation of a wall surrounding to a fruit. What we call it as fruit wall, or in scientific language it's called as pericarp. Thus the post-fertilization events that takes place in angiosperm or flowering plants. Okay, so that's all about a very brief revision of chapter number 1. Okay. Just go through it, go through the notes which are provided to you and learn it. While learning, if you have any doubt regarding any topic, try to understand. Here the gametes which are going to be produced, they are of different numbers and different animals. They are of different types. The number of chromosome in gametes may also going to be vary. You also have to prepare a table which says the number of chromosome in myocyte and the gametes. Usually myocyte contains diploid chromosome and the gametes contains haploid chromosome. Table has been provided. So go through all the things thoroughly. Remember the examples, whatever it has been or wherever it has been given. Okay, the details paper style will be provided to you soon. Thank you for watching. Keep learning, keep subscribing. Thank you for watching.